Hi there, I am A.G. Arana. Those of my friends who have already gone through my earlier video titled Bootstrap 4, tutorial number 7, designing e-commerce website with the Bootstrap 4 alpha version. Please note that with Bootstrap 4 migrating to beta version, which can now be used for designing websites, there are three main changes in the web page. For those who are going through this video for the first time, I will redo the entire page for their benefit. Now the HTML code, as you can recollect for the alpha version, the entire code is here. This is the web page, the alpha version, what we have designed earlier. When I pasted it into the Bootstrap 4 beta version, the same code, you can see what are the main changes here. Like this is the website as it looks when you paste that code into beta version. You can see that the navigation bar, the brand item is moved to the right. Like in the alpha version, it is on the left and the navigation items on the right. But with the same code, when I pasted to beta version, the brand item is moved to the right and the sandwich icon has moved to the left side with the drop down. So this is not what we envisaged, and why this has happened. Like class of navbar toggleable SM. Now this nav class of toggleable, in the beta version, Bootstrap has changed this from toggleable to expand. Now the expanding the navigation at what viewport? You can select it to SM, MD, LG, wherever the way you want. I am keeping it at expanded SM. That means SM and above, the navigation will expand to the full extent. If I save this and then refresh the browser, if I refresh this browser, you can see the change. The brand item has moved to the left side and the navigation items have moved to the right. So this is one important and major change. And the second one, like in the HTML, you can see in the alpha version for the carousel, the class that is used for the images is img fluid. With the display block, the class that is used for the images is img fluid, so that the images will be aligning to the viewport that is being used. But when it comes to the beta version, the Bootstrap has changed this for the carousel from img fluid to the shortcut class of w-100. This means width 100% of the viewport. So depending on which viewport this carousel is used, the width will be 100% of that viewport. So instead of saying img fluid, this will be w-100 for all the three, since I have three carousel items. So having changed that, if I save this now, and you will find that it doesn't make much of a difference. If I refresh the browser, you can see it doesn't make much of a difference to the carousel, because the other items will remain the same. Only in case of aligning this to the respective viewports, instead of img fluid, the beta version is using width-100, w-100 is shortcut. So that's the second change. And coming to the third one, if you come down to these two columns, like in the alpha version, you can see that there is a gap here between the first 6 columns and the next 6 columns. There's a sufficient gap here. Now that gap came about because of the offset command. In the alpha version, I had given the offset -md-3. Now in the beta version, the Bootstrap has removed that offset option. So instead of offset, now in the revised version, beta version, we will be using the class of margin left auto. So this will align the item as per the space available. Like if I save this, and come and refresh the browser, now you can see that the contact us column has moved to the available space. So this is the third major change. Otherwise, the page remains almost the same. So these are the three major changes that have come about in Bootstrap 4 so far as this web page is concerned. Now let's get into the for creation of this web page for the benefit of those who are to this video for the first time. First of all, what I'll do is in the beta version of the HTML, I am going to delete the entire code in the body part. And then we go on defining it one after another. So the entire contents in the body part, I have removed it. As you can see the top here, we have the two CSS files. First is the bootstrap.min.css and second is the style.css. I have opened a folder on my desktop with the name eCommerce website Bootstrap 4 beta version. Now inside this folder, now these two files, CSS and JS. Now this is the Bootstrap CSS files and these are Bootstrap JS files. Now these two folders I picked up from getbootstrap.com. Like if you go to the official website of getbootstrap.com, there's a download option here. Now when you download this, when you click, it will download the folder, complete folder. Like this will be the folder bootstrap-4.0.0-beta. Inside this folder, we have different folders and files. So what we are going to use is the dist folder, dist. Inside the dist folder, these are the two folders. First is CSS and second is JS. So these two folders, I have copied them in my desktop folder here. These are the two folders I have copied it. In addition to that, I have also opened the images folder, and inside this images folder we have different images. For this is for 3-column layout. These are JPEG images for 253 by 190, and the 4 columns. These are the 4-col images. These are all the JPEG files for 400 by 400 pixels, and then for the comments we have smaller ones which are the 80 by 80, and then for slider, this is for the carousel. I have 3 images JPEG files with dimensions of 2560 by 871 pixels, and then I have another JPEG file of 1920 by 1440. So we'll see where to use this. So these are the same images which I have used in the alpha version tutorial. So same images we are going to use here. Now having kept these 3 folders, and now I am going to use Sublime Text. As you can see, I am using Sublime Text as the text editor. So I will first drag this folder, eCommerce website Bootstrap 4 beta version folder that I have created. I will drag it into the Sublime Text, and from here we are going to work on. The first of all, we need to now create the index file in the beta version. So for that, this is the basic code for the HTML. So let's come to the file and say save as, and inside that folder, let's name this file as index. Let's name this file as index, and HTML will be taken by Sublime Text. So save it. Now as you can see, that file is saved as index.html. This is in the beta version. Now having created the index file, now what we need is the link, these two links, like the bootstrap.min.css. Like in this folder, we have in the CSS folder, we have this bootstrap.min.css. So this is the file we are going to use for Bootstrap. And second is the style.css. Now this CSS file we need to create. This is a file we are going to use for designing our own code. Whatever designing we need to do the web page by giving our own code, then we need to use this file of style.css. We will not be touching the bootstrap.min.css file. So for that, let's open a new file, and come and save it. Come to the CSS folder, and here we name that file as style.css. Save it. Okay, it is saved as style.css. This is a blank file right now. Now coming back to the HTML. Now I am not going to type this entire code because it's very extensive code. So what I will use is the code each of the items. Like first we have the navigation bar with the brand item on the left side and the navigation items on the right side. So let's copy this code for the navigation. I'm going to copy this and then we'll discuss it. So say copy it, Control C, then come to the beta version, and in the body part I'm going to paste this. Now in the bottom here you see some JavaScript files. Now for your information, these JavaScript files I've taken for Bootstrap 4. If I come to the documentation and in the quick start, we have these JavaScript files here. So you can you copy them from here to copy to the clipboard and then come and paste it in the beta version HTML page. I have already done that. So having now pasted the code for the navigation bar, if I save this now and if I open this in the browser, now what has happened is the icon is here and the brand name is on the right side. That is because, as I have said at the beginning of the video, the toggleable class navbar toggleable SM, the toggleable has been changed from toggleable to expand by the beta version. So we need to use that navbar expand SM, and the BG faded. I would not be reading this. Remove this. Now this MB1, this is a shortcut, which means margin bottom, and that 1 stands for 0.25 rem. So this will provide a 0.25 rem margin to the bottom, like I have already explained it in the alpha version tutorial. Now let's save this, and if I refresh the browser, you can see the brand item has moved to the left side and the navigation items have moved to the right. Now the background for this nav bar is plain, so we need to change the color. For changing the background color, now this nav bar light, I am going to change the class to nav bar color. Like I would like to define my own color. Coming to the style sheet here. So first of all, there are two important changes, things that I need to do. First is the global command. Like there are some global commands here. The first one we will do is HTML. Now for HTML, we want the height to be 100% across all viewports, because different viewports will be defining different heights. To keep it uniform across all the viewports, we are going to define the height to be restricted to 100%. Similarly for images like IMG, here we are going to restrict the width, like the max width would be 100%. This is to restrict it to the max height, max width or height of the HTML, depending on the which viewport is being used. So these are the two global commands, just to ensure that the website is seen in different viewports in the same way. So after those two global commands, now we target that class of navbar color, and we define the background of say 1275FB, it's a blue color. Save it, and if you come and refresh the browser now, you can see that the navigation bar has got a blue color, but the text items, that the navigation item and the brand name, are not clearly visible because of the change in the background color. So let's come and make those items visible. To do that, first we are going to target the UL, LI and anchor item. For UL, LI and anchor are inside this main div class of collapse navbar collapse. If I copy that, come to the style sheet, put a dot and paste that code, and then target the UL, LI, and anchor item, the class nav-link, and put a curly bracket here and put a dot and a backspace. There will be no spacing in between. Now inside this collapse navbar collapse UL, LI, nav link, Now we will define the color to be white. We want the color of the text to be white. Save it, and then if I refresh the browser now, you can see that the navigation item, the color has turned into white. Similarly, let's target the brand item. Now the brand, as you can see, is a class navbar brand. So for that, let's come to the style sheet, and here we'll say a dot navbar brand, and here we will say we want the color to be white. Save it, and then refresh. You find the brand item also, the text color has become white. Now this navigation bar, let us see how does it look in the smaller viewports. Like this, since this is the browser Firefox, I am going to use the shortcut key Ctrl Shift and M. And what you see here is that the brand item has moved to the right, and the hamburger icon is invisible. Although it is there, it is invisible because of the background color. So what we can do here is change that hamburger icon. Now this span class navbar toggler icon, this is for the hamburger icon. This we can change to text if we want to. Like if I delete this and then change it to a text or menu. Save it, and then if I refresh now, you find the text menu is appearing here. But we want the toggler, menu toggler drop down to go to the right and the brand items to come to the left. So this is happening, the interchange is happening because the A class navbar brand, this we have put it after the button. So if I remove it from here, cut it from there, and then paste it before the button, I think it will align itself automatically. So if I save this now and then refresh, you find that the brand item has come to the left side and the menu item with the toggler is on the right side. This is for the smaller viewports. So next what we need to do is, as you can see here, when you hover this navigation items, the color of the text is turning into black, and this brand has got a border around and also hover effect, and these navigation items also have hover effect. So let's work it all that out. For doing that, first come to the style sheet, and then this collapse navbar collapse, ULLA nav link. Let's copy this entire class and come and paste it here, and then give it a hover effect. Let us say hover, and close the curly bracket. Now for hover, we want the color of the text to be black. Say 00. Save it, and then if I refresh now, you find that the color is turned into black when you hover it. Similarly, this one also we will want to give it a hover effect for the brand, and for the brand we have the class of A navbar brand. So this same class, let's copy this and paste it here, and then close the curly bracket. We have to give the hover effect here. Let's say hover, and then give it a color of say CCC. Let's save it and refresh, and when you hover here, you find it is going into a light gray, and here it's turning into black. In addition to this, we also have the yellow box when they hover around. So to work out to that, we need to target the class of nav item. So let's target this. Let's copy this class of nav item and come to the style sheet, put a dot, paste it here, and then say hover. Now for nav item hover, let's define a background color. I would say F9F461. This will be a yellow color. Save this, and then if I refresh now, you find when I hover, it gives a box type of yellow hover color. And one other thing we need to notice is that the navigation items are very close. So let's give some padding to these navigation items. So for giving padding to them, let's target that class of nav-item, and here we will say padding 0 on the top and bottom, and 1 rem on the left and right. Let's save this, and then if I refresh now, you find that the navigation items are now properly placed. Next we come to the brand item. Like we have the border around nav item. So for the brand item, we have the class of a.navbar brand. So here itself we will define a border of 1 pixel solid and say CCC. And in addition to the border, we will also give it a border radius. Border radius we will say 0.2 rem, and also padding. Let's also define a padding of say 0.3 rem. Save it, and then now if you refresh, you find that the border has come about with sufficient paddings. So this is how the brand items will, and this is how the navigation items will look. Now if you go to the smaller viewport, you find that this is how the smaller viewport will look. Now this menu item, this also we want the color to change and also give it a border around. So for that we need to target that class of navbar toggler. We target this class, copy that, come to the style sheet, and then put a dot and paste that code, navbar toggler. And here we say we want the color of the text to be white, and we also want the border of 1 pixel solid, let's say CCC, the same border as we given the other one, and then give it a padding of say 0.3 rem as we are given for the navbar brand, and also define it a font size. Let's say font size 1.2 rem. Save this, and now if you refresh, you find the border has come around, the font size has come down, and the toggler is now working. Now this brand item font size will be much larger than that of menu. So let's align that. So first let's bring down the font size of this brand item in the larger viewports. For that the A navbar brand, we define a font size here, let's say 1.1 rem. Save it, and then if you refresh, you find that the font size has come down here. But when it comes to the smaller viewport, you find that this is still to come down. So then we need to define a media query. Let's define a media query. Let's say at media. This is for the smallest viewport. Let's say max width of 575 pixels. This will target only those the smallest viewports like the mobile phones. And here we will define that class of A navbar brand, and we will define the font size of say 1 rem. Save it, and if I refresh the browser now it should be fine. So the brand name and the menu items are now in alignment here in the smallest viewport. Now if you come to the medium size viewport of 960 pixels, you can see this is how this will be working. Now here also the brand name, if you want to reduce the size, then we need to define another media query. Let's say at media, we say min width of 576 pixels and max width of 767 pixels. This is for SM. For SM, we can define the same font size. So copy it and then paste it here. Then again define the media query, media, and copy this same text here, paste it, and then change it from 576 to 768 pixels. This is for MD to 992 pixels. The viewport of MD. Here again we'll copy that code and then paste it here. Now for MD also we make it to say 1 rem, and then if I refresh the browser now, you can see now that the brand name has come down. So for larger viewports also it is an alignment. So this is how the navigation bar will work. And one other important thing that we have noticed is that we are using the class of container. Like we have used the class of container here. Now by using container, Bootstrap .css or Bootstrap min.css defines a container to be a max width of 1140 pixels. Now, for a container, the maximum width that can be defined is 1140 pixels. That is why you find that this particular container is stretching to 1140 pixels. Now, if you want it to stretch from end to end, then you can change this container to container fluid. To do that, save it and then refresh. You find that now the navigation bar is going from end to end of the page with some gutter width on the either side. Now, even with the container fluid, if you come to the smaller viewport, you find the width is the same, and even in the medium size also you find the width is the same. So, this is how the navigation bar will be defined in Bootstrap for beta version. Next, we move on to inserting the carousel. Like we have the three indicators, and then we have left indicator here. We have a left indicator, and then we have a right indicator. So, the carousel with the heading and a subheading and the indicators. Let's come and design that. So, for that, if you come to the HTML for the alpha version, we have the code here for the carousel inside a container. So, let's copy the entire container here, copies, and after this container, let's come and paste this. And the first thing we do is keep that container fluid to keep uniformity. We make it container fluid, and in addition to that, inside the div ID of carousel example indicators, we have the OL class. Now, this OL class of carousel indicators refer to these indicators at the bottom. And then we also have at the bottom here the control carousel control previous and carousel control next. So, these two are the previous and the next. These are the two indicators, carousel indicator, and then we have the heading inside carousel caption, like we have an S3 heading, and then the description of the heading. So, this is essentially the code for the carousel. Now, as I have said in the beginning of the video, that the beta version, they made one small change in the carousel, that is the image class. Instead of img fluid, they have introduced the shortcut class of w-100. This means the width of the carousel should be 100% of the viewport. Instead of saying img fluid, they are defining it to be width 100%, so that this carousel will stretch to the 100% width of the viewport that is being used. So, this is the only change, and if you save this, you won't find much of a change. If I refresh it now, you can see that this is the carousel, and in the carousel we have the left indicator, and then we have the right indicator, and then we have the indicators at the bottom, and then we have a heading and a subheading, the description of the heading. Now, by changing it from img fluid to w-100, so there is not much of change. Like even if you come to a smaller viewport, you will find that the carousel is perfectly aligned. The only thing here is we see the heading and the description and the controls. They are not getting properly aligned in smaller viewports. So, for that we need to now come and define a media query. Like if you come to the style sheet here, and inside that media class of max width 575 for the smallest viewport. So, here we need to now define the how to get over this issue. So, one is to hide this heading, and if you do not want to hide the heading because of the importance of these carousel items, then one option is to increase the height of the image. Now, for increasing the height of the image, if you come to the class here carousel item, the images are within this class of carousel item. So, if I copy this carousel item class, then come to the media max width 575, put a dot here and paste that code, and then target the image img, and here we define the height. Let us say You make it 8 rem, and this will be only for the smallest viewport. Like save this, and then now if I refresh, you find the height of the image has gone up, and the heading, the subheading, and the indicators are perfectly in alignment. Now, for any reason, if you don't want the lower indicators because it's a very small viewport, then you can remove those indicators. For that, you target this class of carousel indicators, copy this, come to the style sheet, and in the smallest viewport of 575, put a dot, paste that code, and then we say display none. Save it, and if you refresh now, you find those indicators at the bottom are gone. So this is how you can align the carousel in the smallest viewport. Like this, if you come to the medium size viewport, this is how it will look in the medium size, and in the largest viewport, this is how the carousel will look. So this completes the carousel. Next, we move on to inserting this heading, e-commerce website in Bootstrap 4. So let's see how we can do that. Let's come to the HTML, and here in the alpha version, we have this heading inside a container and inside a jumbotron. So let's copy this, and then come to the alpha version, and after the earlier container, let's come and paste that code. As you can see that this is inside a container, and inside a jumbotron we have the h1, and this container, for uniformity's sake, let's make it container fluid, and this align center. Now Bootstrap 4 has introduced a class called text center. Then we have the e-commerce website heading, and we also have a span class text muted. That the second part of the heading, we wanted the text to be muted. So if I save this now, and then if I refresh the browser, now you find we have the jumbotron with a shaded background. As you can see that the second part of the heading, since we have given it text muted, it will not be looking nice in the shaded background. So for the jumbotron, I don't want to keep that background. So for removing the background, there are two options. Like this class of jumbotron, let me target that, copy this, come to the style sheet, come to the bottom here, then put a dot, paste that code, and then inside that class of jumbotron, I have two options of removing that background color. One is say background none, or I can define the background color. So instead of saying background none, I define it a color of say white. If I save this now and then refresh, you find the background color is gone. So this is how the heading will look in the larger viewports. Now coming to the smaller viewport, this heading looks to be slightly larger. To make it a little smaller, then we need to again target the jumbotron. Inside the jumbotron, we have the h1. But this we want it in the smallest viewport, that is in 575. So here if I say jumbotron h1 and define a font size of say 1.5 rem, save it, and then if I refresh in the smaller viewport now, this is how the heading will look in the smallest viewport. Now if you come to the medium size viewport of 960 pixels, like this is how the heading will be aligned, and in the largest viewport, this is how the heading will align. So this completes the heading. Moving next to the 4-column layout, like we have the image, heading, text, and button. So let us see how we can define this. So coming to the HTML, come to the alpha version. Now here we have the container carrying those 4 columns. So let's copy this entire container, Control C, and then come and paste it after the closure of the jumbotron container. Let's close this. Okay, this is the code now for the 4 columns. Now the container, let's make it container fluid to keep in uniformity. And the next is the row, div class row. We have the class of text center. That means all the items within this row and columns, like images, text, headings, everything should be centered. And then we have the columnar layout of call MD3, 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 and MD3, 4 columns. And inside those columns, we have the images, like the images for call. If you come to the folder, in the images folder under for call, we have the 4 images, round 1, round 2, round 3, and round 4. Like we have the first image here, round 1, and with the class of IMG fluid, and then all description, followed by the heading. Now the heading we have is our specialty, and followed by the div class of text muted. That lorem text that we have placed here is muted, and followed with a button for view details. So this is the first column. Similarly, we have the second column where we have the image of round 2, and this heading, our specialty. Let me change this. Instead of repeating our specialty, let me change this to say our expertise, and the other contents will keep the same. Coming to the third column, this heading we will make it as our team, and the fourth one we will make it as our goal. So other contents will remain unchanged. So let's save this now. And if I come and refresh the browser, like if I come to the browser here and then refresh the browser, you see that we have the 4 images with a heading, text, and a button. So below these buttons, let's now define some space. Now for defining a space, let's define a blank div of, let's call space, div class space. Now this is a blank div. And coming to the style sheet, let's define that class of space. Here we say padding to the top. Padding to the top, let us say 5 rem. Let's save this, and then if I refresh now, you can see we have the 5 rem padding at the bottom. So this is how the 4 columns will look in the larger viewports. If you come to the smaller one, you can see that we have the image, heading, text, and button. Image, heading, text, and button. Image, heading, text, and button. So this is how the image, text, and heading buttons will be lined up. Coming to the larger viewport, now here we find, although we are given a jumbotron, there would be some padding, default padding to the 4 columns. So because the gap here is a little larger, so what we can do is target that jumbotron. Like we already have the jumbotron here. So the padding will remove it at the bottom. Whatever default paddings are there, padding bottom, let's make it 0. Save this and then now refresh it and see. You can see the images now come up. So this aligns perfectly well. And coming to the smaller viewports, here also you find that it aligns pretty well. And then coming to the medium size viewport, 960 pixels, it's again going to 4 columns. And then we have the larger viewport where we have 4 columns. So this is how the 4 columns will be defined. After these 4 columns, next we have the 3 column layout. Like we have a background image in the 3 column layout, and with 3 columns with image, heading, text, and 2 buttons. Let us see how we can work this out. So coming to the alpha version code, like we have the container here for the 3 column layout. Let's copy this code, Control C, and then coming to the beta version, after that div class space, let's paste this code. Like this is the code for the 3 column layout. We have the container. Now the container, for uniformity's sake, let's make it fluid here in this example. And then we have another class of image box. Let's see why we need this class here. And also the text muted. That means all the text that is inside this container should be muted. Those are the instructions to that, and then followed with the row. And inside the row, we have the columnar layout. Like we have column MD4, column MD4, and column MD4. So it is 3 columns. And then inside the column MD4, now we have inserted the div class of card. Now for the card, we have also given the class of text center. That means whatever the items are there inside this card, we want them to be centered. Followed with the image. Now image, we have given the class of img fluid, and the images, if you come to the 3 columns, 3 call layout here, we have the 3 images, pic 4, pic 5, and pic 6. So here we have inserted first the pic 4 or JPEG, Morikuti plants, and inside that card, after the image, we have the card block, and inside the card block, we have the card title and card text and buttons. So first we have the H3 with the class of card title, and this align center. This the class will have to now change it to, instead of align center, we say text center. Card title, 2 classes here for H3, card title and text center. And then for the paragraph item, we have got the class of card text, and follow it with the 2 buttons, with the button outline primary and outline success. Now as you can see, the button outline, it only gives the outline in the main view, but only when you hover, you find the color being visible. So this is the outline. So we have defined it as the color outline with the border of primary, that is blue, and for the second one with the border of success, that is green, and with the text of buy now and view now. Now this was the first column. Coming to the second column, we have the pic 5 with the Vidari plants. We have followed with the card title, card text, and buttons. Similarly, for the last column also, we have the image of pic 6 with Chaturkali plants with the heading of card title. Then we have card text. Now here this class, again we need to change, make it text center, and here also I think we need to change, make that text center. Okay. Now let's come and save this, and if you come to the browser and if you refresh the browser here, so you find we have the 3 images with the heading, text, and the buttons. So we need to do some customization here. Like in the original, you find that there is a background image to this. So let's come and place that background image. For placing the background image, we have provided the class to the container of image box, image dash box. So let's copy this image dash box, and then come to the style sheet here, put a dot, paste that code, and then inside that image box. Now we define the background image. Let's say background, say URL, and in the URL, let's select that because we are in the CSS, place 2 dots and a forward slash, and in the images folder, then we have path.jpg. Like you can see in the images folder, if you come to the images here, so we have this image of path.jpg. This is a JPEG file of 1920 by 1440. So we're going to place it here, and with the no repeat. Okay. Now that we have given the background image, let's save this, and if you come and refresh the browser, you can see the image is now visible on the background. To make this 3-column layout more visible, let's come to the HTML here and give that class of space, div class of space. Let's copy this and come and paste it here, so that it will have the padding to the top. If I refresh now, yes, there's a padding at the bottom of this 3-column layout. So now we need to customize this like these 3 columns. We need to define these columns by giving them margins and paddings. So to do that, let's come to the HTML. We see that the 3 images are placed inside the class of card. So let's come and target that class of card. If I say card and provide it a padding of 0.75 rem all around, and then now provide the margins, like to the margin to the left, let me say 1 rem, so that these 3 images go apart, and then give it a margin to the top, so that the images come down by almost 2 rem, so that the background image will be visible. And then let's also give a margin to the bottom of say 2 rem. Now if I save this and then refresh the browser, now here you can see that we have the background image properly visible, and then we have the 3 columns with image, heading, text and buttons. So now these images we need to give a little more padding so that the columns will properly align. So to give padding to the images, let us again target that class of card and IMG, the images inside the card. Let's provide them a padding of say 0.5 rem. Save this and then refresh. Now here, okay, we have sufficient padding around the images. Then this text, I would like to reduce the size of the text. So for that, let me target that class of card text. Like we have this card text here. You come to the style sheet and put a dot, paste that code card text, and then define the font size. Now here I want the font size to be 90% of the original size. So if I save it now and then refresh, you can see the font size has come down. One other thing you would have noticed is the padding here, margin to the last column, after the last column, and padding a margin to the left of the first column. It's not in alignment. So let's target this last column and then give some padding there. So for that, you'll have to target that class of card. You say card and we say last child. Now here we are targeting the last column, and here we say the margin to the right. Let us say 0.75 rem. Save it, and then if I refresh now, you can see now the last column is properly aligned. So this is the 3-column layout in the larger viewport. Let's come and see it in the smaller viewport. Like if you come scroll down, you find this is the first column, this is the second column, and this is the third column. We found all the 3 columns are perfectly in alignment now. Okay, then coming to the medium size viewport, 960 pixels. Here you find all the 3 columns are in alignment properly, and then the larger viewport, the 3 columns are aligned properly. Now there's a small correction in the third card column, like we have an additional inverted commas here, so we remove them and save it. One other thing you would have noticed is the height of these columns. Like if you see in the alpha version, the height of this column is more than what it is in the beta version. That is because here we are using the container with a max width of 1140, whereas in the beta version we are using container fluid. That's why the columns are spreading out to the entire width of the viewport. So this completes the 3-column layout. Next we move on to the 2-column layout, like what they say and contact us. And what they say, we have an image heading and text, then image heading and text, and then image and heading and text nested inside the earlier column. That's on the left side. On the right side we have the contact form. Now let's come to the HTML here, code. And here we see that we have the code for both the left and right side. So let's copy the entire container and then come to the beta version and then paste it here. So this is the entire code. So first we have the container. Let's make it a container fluid. Okay, and then we have the row. Inside the row we have the div class of call MD6. So the first one is called MD6 and second one is called MD6. The first call MD6 is for the column what they say, and the second call MD6 is for the contact form contact us. Now inside this first column MD6 we have the H3 heading with the class of comment heading what they say, and then inside that we have the div class of media, and so the media we have the images like you can see here we have two images, pic 8 and pic 9. So we're going to place those images here. So first one is pic8.jpg and give it an alt description of, let's say, ABC, and the class of display flex. This is the flex box command. You want the image to flexible, and then align self start. This is the class of Bootstrap 4, which means that we want the image to align right at the top and the beginning of the column. And then margin to the right will be 3. That means it will be 1 rem. Margin to the top will be 2. That will be 0.5 rem. Then follow it with the media body. In the media body we have a media heading, so ABC says, and followed it with some text inside the paragraph. Then coming to the second media, we have the image pic 9, and here we will give the all description as XYZ, and then the class will be display flex, align self start. Margin to the right will be 1 rem, and margin to the top 4 means 1.5 rem. And then the div class of media body, and followed with the div class media heading, and then some text. Now the next media, the column, will be nested inside the XYZ column. This reply column will be nested inside the XYZ column. So here inside that media body, we start that next media. We'll remove this class. Yeah, we start the next media, and inside that we have the div class of call SM2 and call MD3. This is for the image. To place that image in the SM, it will be occupied in 2 columns, and MD it will occupy 3 columns. And the remaining columns will be occupied by the media body with the media heading, reply, and the text. So this is the what they say, the left side column 6, and then on the right side we have the call MD6 with inside that we have call MD9. That means that contact us form will take the 9 columns inside the MD6, and as I have already pointed out that the offset MD3, which was there in the earlier alpha version, now it has been changed to ML auto, that is margin left auto, and then we have call SM12, then followed with the heading 3 with the padding to the top 4, that means about 1.5 rem, and padding to the bottom 0.5 rem. And then we have the form action with the hash, method post, and role form. The div class of form group with the label for full name, and input type will be text, class, form control, ID, full name. The second div class for form group, label for email is email address, then input type is email, class, form control, ID, email. Next one, div class of form group, label for telephone, input type will be tel, class form control, and ID will be tel. The last one, div class form group, label for message, and text area class is equal to form control, ID message, and rows 3. Lastly, we have the button for submit with the BTN primary, BTN SM. BTN SM means the smaller buttons, and with the text of submit. So these are the 2 columns. So let's come and save this, and now if you refresh, see, this is how the columns will look. Now let's do some customization for these columns. Like what they say, heading and the next column is too close. So one option is to give a padding to this heading, or second option is to push these items down. So we will follow the second method. Media. The first media, we give some margin to the top. If it's a margin to the top, if I say about 4, that means 1.5 RAM. And if I save this and then refresh the browser, you can see that it has come down by about 1.5 RAM. And coming to the second one, the second media, here if you say margin to the top, say 5. Now 5 will be about 3 RAM. If I save this now and refresh, so you find the second column has come down by almost 3 RAM. And the third, this media, we will say margin to the top will be 4. That's about 1.5 RAM again. Save it and then refresh. And this is how the columns will be aligned. Now the second and third column, you find that the image has come down and it takes slightly up. So we need to push down the text. For doing that, now the media heading XYZ and the paragraph is inside the div class of media body. Now here we are saying margin top 0. Instead of 0, if I make it 3, that is about 1 RAM. Save it and then if I refresh, now you find the heading and the text has come in line. The next will be coming to the next media body. Here also we say margin top will be 0, so make it 3. Save it and refresh. Here you find, okay, these 3 columns are now in alignment. And the right side contact form is okay. So let's now come and see it in the smaller viewport. Like the first 2 columns, the heading and the first 2 columns are image and the text are aligned. But when it comes to the nested column, so we have a problem here. So we need to move this image and the text to the left. To do that, let's come to the HTML. So first let's target the image, and the image is inside that div class of media left. Let's copy this class, come to the style sheet, and in the style sheet here put a dot and paste that code of media left. This we are doing it in the smallest viewport, that is max width 575, and here we will say margin to the left. That means we want to pull that image to the left by giving a negative margin of say 7 RAM. Save it and you refresh the browser. You see that the image has come to the left side. Similarly, now we need to pull that heading and the text also to the left side. So for pulling the heading to the left, first let's target that div class media heading and give another class of say reply heading, and then copy this class of reply heading and then come to the style sheet here, and in the same small viewport, let's put a dot, paste that code, and then say margin to the left. Here I would define a negative margin of say 7 RAM and save it. And if you refresh now, you will see that the heading has come in line with the column above. Now when it comes to the text, we have this paragraph line. Now here the class of margin bottom 0. In addition to that, let us also define a class of reply text. Copy this and then come to the style sheet and put a dot and paste that code, and inside the curly bracket here we define margin to the left. Here we need to give a little more margin to the left, that is negative margin. So we will define as 12 RAM. Save it and then if you refresh now, you find the text has come to the left side in alignment with the upper column, but the heading has moved to the right side. So for the heading also now, let's make it the same, say 12 rem. Save it. And now if you refresh, now you find that the third column is perfectly in alignment. And the contact us column is all right. So this is how the columns will look in the smaller viewport. Then coming to the medium size viewport, the two columns are perfectly in alignment. Similarly, when it comes to larger viewport, the columns will be in alignment. So this completes the two column layout. Next, we will see how to embed a video. You can see that CSS based navigation video. Let's see how to insert this. So coming to the alpha version code here, we have the container with the code of inserting a video. So let's copy this and come to the beta version here, and after the div class of space, let's paste that. So the div class of container, so let's first change it to container fluid, so that we have everywhere the container fluid in this video. And there is also a class of space. We will see what is that class for. And then we have heading, watch video and CSS based navigation. And then we have another div. Now this div class, embed responsive -16 by 9. So this is for the width of the screen. So if you are using a larger screen, and this will be the code for that. And there is also inline style with the border of 1 pixel solid at CCC, and then follow it with the code of iframe, embed responsive item with the source of the video. Now this video is from Adobe. So just for the example sake, I have inserted this video. And then we have the closure of the responsive div and also closure of the container. Let's come and save this now. And if you come to the beta version and then refresh that page, now you see that we have the heading here and then followed with the video design. So first of all, let's give some space at the bottom. So let's copy this and then come and paste that code after the container, save it, and then refresh again. Okay, we have the space at the bottom. We also have space at the top. So if this space looks more, then this class of space, if I remove it, because that here also we have given the class of space, so it come twice. So then let's come and refresh it now. Now this should be fine. Right. So let's see how this embedding a video will look in the smaller viewport. Like if you come to the smallest viewport, if you come down, scroll down, now you find that video is sitting properly. And in the heading, if you find if it is larger, then you need to target that H4. For reducing the font size, let's define it a class of say video heading. Come to the style sheet here and come to the smallest viewport 575, and here we will say video heading. So let's define a font size of let's say 1.5 rem, and then we define a font weight of say 600, and also align the text to the center. Let's come and save this, and if you refresh the browser now, so you will find that the heading has aligned to the center and the text is looking bolder. So this is how the embedding video will look in the smallest viewport. And then you come into the medium size, that is 960 pixels. This is how the video will align. That's fine. Like this is a live video. And then when you go out to the larger viewport, this is how the video will look. So this is how the video is embedded into the website. And the last remaining item is the footer. So we have the social icons on the left side and the copyright text on the right side. Let's see how to define that. So coming to the alpha version, we have the code for the footer. So let's copy this code, Control C, and then come to the beta version, and after div class of space, let us paste that code of footer. Now here the class is footer class text muted. That means the entire text on this footer, it is defined to be muted. And then we have the div class of container. So let's make it to be container fluid to be in alignment. And then we have a div class of row and also a class of footer. We will come to this class later. And then inside that row, we have two columns. On the left side, we have the social icons. On the right side, we have the copyright text. So the defined columns are call SM6 and call MD6. And here also it is call SM6 and call MD6. So it's a 6 column each layout. On the left side, we have a class of social. We will come to this class. And then the UL class of list unstyled. Inside that we have the list items, LI class of list inline item. First is Facebook, second is Twitter, and third is Google Plus. And on the right side we have the copyright text inside a div class of call SM6, MD6 with a class of copyright. And then we have the copyright symbol and the text, and also the year can be defined. In addition to this, you can also add something like all rights reserved, any item that you need to paste in the footer. So this is how the footer is defined. So let's come and save this. And now we need to first define the background to the footer. Like if you come to the beta version website and refresh, you find the text for the social icons on the left side and the text for the copyright on the right side. But this is left aligned by default. So we need to push this to the right and also give a background color to the footer. So coming to the background color to the footer, now as you know, the row has been given a class of footer. So let's copy this class of footer, come to the style sheet, come to the bottom here, and then footer dot and paste that code, footer. And then for the footer, we define first a background color. The background will give the same color as the navigation. Let's say 1275 BF, slightly dark color. And then we give it the color to the text to be white because it's a blue color background. So make it white, and also give it a padding about 2 rem to the top and bottom, and 0 on the left and right. Here we need to give a hash to the color here, background hash 1275 BF, and then come and save this. And if you refresh the browser now, you will find that we have the blue color with the social icons on the left side and the text on the right side. So this text, let us push it to the right. So for that, we already have given a class here of copyright. So let's copy this class copyright, come to the style sheet and put a dot here and here, paste that code, and then inside that class of copyright, let us say text align to the right. Let's save this, and then if you refresh, now you find the text is aligned to the right. Next, we can give some hover color to this. Like if you see in the original, we have a hover color when you hover over the social icons. So the hover color, let's come and define it. Like the class we have is social ULLI. So let's target that class of social ULLI. So social ULLI, and then we say hover. And the color that we want to give would be hash EBBA10, orange color. Save it, and then if you refresh now, so when you hover over, you find the orangish tinge to the social icons. and for the copyright we don't need a hover part. So this completes the footer. So let's look at this footer from the smallest viewport. Like if you come down, in the smallest viewport you find the social icons are aligning towards the left. So we need to align them to the center. For aligning these items to the center, let us target this class of social. Come to the style sheet here, and then if you come up to the smallest viewport, here we put a dot and paste that code social, and then we say text align to the center. Save this, and then if you refresh, you find that the items has come to the center. So this is how the footer will be seen in the smallest viewport. And then if you come to the medium size viewport, like 960 pixels, yeah, this is how the footer will be looking. And then going to the largest viewport, this is how the footer will look. So this completes the e-commerce web page. Hope you liked it. Thank you.